The old ship floated at the edge of Earth's defense fleet. The USS Underdog was small compared to the newer vessels. Its hull had patches and repairs from years of service. Paint peeled off in some spots. The engines made strange noises that worried visiting officials. No one expected much from this ship anymore. Captain Abigail Wright stood on the bridge looking out at the stars. She was 42 years old with short brown hair that had started showing gray. Her uniform was perfectly clean and pressed, even though nobody important ever visited the Underdog anymore. "Another message from Fleet Command," said Lieutenant Daniel Harris. He was young with dark skin and serious eyes. He handed her a small screen with the message. Abigail read it quickly and sighed. "They want us to stay back during the meeting with the aliens." "Of course they do," Daniel said. "Heaven forbid anyone sees the Underdog near the important ships." Abigail handed back the screen. Around her, the bridge crew worked quietly. They were good people who had ended up on a ship nobody wanted. Some had made mistakes in their careers. Others had refused to play politics. A few, like Abigail, had made powerful enemies. "How far are we from the meeting point?" she asked. "About 6 hours, Captain," replied Olivia Martinez from the navigation station. Her fingers moved across the screen, adjusting their course slightly. "We'll arrive just before the Nix ships get there." The Nix Collective was an alien civilization that had contacted Earth 3 months ago. This would be the first face-to-face meeting between humans and the Nix. Everyone was nervous. The Nix had better technology than humans. Their ships were faster, their weapons were stronger, but they had offered peace and trade. "Any new information about our guests?" Abigail asked. Gregory Powell, the tactical officer, shook his head. "Nothing we don't already know. They're sending 7 ships. Their main ship is twice the size of our biggest battleship. And we're supposed to just smile and hope they're friendly," Daniel said quietly. Abigail nodded. She had seen the classified reports. The Nix had met 3 other alien species before finding humans. All 3 now worked for the Nix. Nobody knew if they had joined willingly or been conquered. "Captain, can I speak with you?" a voice called from the doorway. Samuel Ellis stood there wiping his hands on a rag. He was the chief engineer, older than most of the crew, with wild gray hair and a beard that never seemed properly trimmed. His uniform was always stained with grease and engine fluid. "Of course, Chief, my office." They walked to the small room next to the bridge. When the door closed, Samuel pulled out a small device and turned it on. "Signal blocker," he explained. "Just in case," Abigail raised an eyebrow. "Is that necessary?" "Maybe. I wanted to tell you that we're ready." "Ready for what exactly?" Samuel smiled. His eyes gleamed with excitement. "Ready to show what this ship can really do if needed." For 5 years, Samuel Ellis had been secretly upgrading the Underdog. Nobody at Fleet Command knew. They never bothered to check the old ship carefully. They just sent it outdated parts and expected it to eventually break down completely. But Samuel was a genius. He had taken those parts and changed them. Improved them. Combined them in ways nobody had thought of before. "The shield system is functioning at full capacity," he said. "It's unlike anything in the fleet. It can adapt to different types of attacks in real time. And the power core, stable. It's producing 3 times the energy of a standard ship, this size, but it's completely hidden from normal scans. It looks like we're running on fumes just like they expect." Abigail sat down at her desk. "What about weapons?" "That's the best part." Samuel pulled up a diagram on her screen. "The metamaterial resonance cannon is installed and ready. It's disguised as part of the front hull section. Nobody would recognize it unless they knew exactly what to look for." "And it works?" Samuel hesitated. "In tests, yes, but we've never had a chance to try it against an actual target." "Let's hope we never need to," Abigail said. But deep down, she had doubts about the upcoming meeting. Why had the Nix sought out Earth? Why were they so interested in humans when they already had 3 other species working for them? "Keep everything quiet," she told Samuel. "No one mentions our upgrades to anyone outside this ship." Samuel nodded. "The crew knows. They're proud of what we've built here, but they also know to keep their mouths shut. Good. If the meeting goes well, maybe we never need to reveal what the underdog can do. After Samuel left, Abigail stayed in her office. She pulled up the files on the Nix again. Their technology was impressive. Their ships moved faster than should be possible. Their weapons could destroy an asteroid with a single shot. But there was something about their behavior that bothered her. In every communication, they were polite but distant. They shared information about their culture and technology, but it always felt carefully selected, like they were showing humans only what they wanted them to see. Abigail's personal tablet beeped. A message from her old friend, Captain Frank Donnelly of the USS Constitution, one of the 5 battleships that would escort the diplomatic vessel. Abby, wish you were joining us up close tomorrow. These aliens give me the creeps. Something feels off. Keep your eyes open even from the back row. She typed back. Always do. Be careful, Frank. 5 hours later, the underdog took its position at the edge of the designated meeting area. Far ahead, Abigail could see the 5 human battleships arranged in formation. The diplomatic vessel, carrying ambassadors and scientists, waited in the center. Nick's ship's approaching, announced Olivia. They'll be here in 20 minutes. Abigail watched the radar screen. 7 dots appeared, moving with perfect precision. The aliens had arrived exactly on time, not a second early or late. All stations, stay alert, she ordered. I know we're just here to watch, but I want everyone ready. The crew nodded. They had served together long enough to understand what she wasn't saying. Be ready for trouble. As the Nix ships came into visual range, even Abigail had to admit they were beautiful, sleek, silver vessels that seemed to glow against the blackness of space. Their movements were fluid, like dancers rather than massive warships. They're scanning us, Gregory reported from Tactical. He sounded amused, probably wondering why we brought such an old ship. Let them wonder, Abigail replied. Little did the Nix know that the ship they were dismissing as insignificant contained technology that might surprise them. The underdog waited quietly at the edge of history, its true nature hidden beneath a weathered exterior. The meeting between humanity and the Nix Collective was about to begin, and Abigail Wright couldn't shake the feeling that nothing would ever be the same again. The meeting between humans and the Nix had been going on for 3 hours. On the bridge of the USS Underdog, Captain Abigail Wright watched the video feed from the diplomatic vessel. The Nix looked almost human, but their skin had a bluish tint, and their eyes were larger. They spoke perfect English in voices that sounded too smooth. They learned our language very quickly, said Daniel Harris. Too quickly, if you ask me. Abigail nodded. Something felt wrong about this whole situation. The Nix representatives smiled and made promises of friendship and shared technology. But their eyes never smiled. Any unusual readings from their ships? She asked. Gregory Powell checked his screens. Nothing obvious. Their shields are up, but that's normal for first contact situations. What about unusual scans? Are they looking at anything specific? Olivia Martinez frowned at her console. They're running deep scans of Earth's defense satellites. Fleet Command authorized it as a show of good faith. Abigail's stomach tightened. Why would peaceful visitors need to know so much about Earth's defenses? Chief Ellis to the bridge, she called over the intercom. Samuel arrived quickly, wiping grease from his hands as usual. Captain, what can you tell me about those Nix ships? Anything your special sensors are picking up? Samuel moved to a side console that looked ordinary, but contained systems he had built himself. Their power readings are interesting. They're using much more energy than needed for just sitting there, like they're keeping something big on standby. Weapons? Abigail asked quietly. Could be, can't tell for sure. Samuel adjusted some settings. But I'm also detecting strange communications between their ships. Very short bursts, heavily encrypted. Abigail watched the main screen. The diplomatic meeting continued with smiles and handshakes. Admiral Chen, Earth's representative, was signing some kind of preliminary agreement. Put me through to Admiral. Chen's security team, Abigail ordered. A young security officer appeared on a small side screen. Captain Wright, how can I help you? This is just a precaution, but tell the Admiral that we're detecting unusual power readings and communications from the Nix fleet. The officer looked uncomfortable. Ma'am, we've been instructed not to interrupt with technical concerns. The diplomatic process is at a critical stage. This could be important. Just pass it along. I'll try to find an appropriate moment, Captain. The officer disconnected. Daniel looked at Abigail. They're not going to tell him, are they? Probably not. Abigail stood up and paced the small bridge. What are we missing here? Why would the Nix want to— Captain! Olivia's voice was suddenly sharp. Energy spike from the Nix flagship. Massive power buildup. All stations, red alert, Abigail ordered. Samuel, bring our real shields online now. The lights on the bridge dimmed as hidden systems came to life. On the main screen, they watched in horror as the Nix flagship suddenly fired a bright beam of energy directly at the human diplomatic vessel. They're attacking, Gregory shouted. The diplomatic ship's shields are failing. The beam cut through the diplomatic vessel like it was made of paper. 2 human battleships moved to defend, only to be hit by similar beams from other Nix ships. This isn't a battle, Daniel said in shock. It's an execution. Abigail grabbed the communication controls. To all Earth vessels, this is Captain Wright of the USS Underdog. The Nix are hostile. Repeat, the Nix are hostile. Raise shields and return fire. But it was already too late for most of the fleet. 3 of the 5 battleships were severely damaged. The diplomatic vessel was breaking apart. Only the Constitution and the Defiant were still firing back, but their weapons seemed to have little effect on the Nix shields. Captain, we're being hailed by Captain Donnelly on the Constitution, Olivia reported. Frank Donnelly's face appeared on screen. His bridge was filled with smoke and blood ran from a cut on his forehead. Abby, we're taking heavy damage. Their shields are too strong and they've got some kind of energy weapon we've never seen before. Frank, get your ship out of there. Fall back to Earth, warn them. Too late for that, he coughed. Our engines are hit, we can't— The screen went black. A moment later, they watched as the Constitution exploded in a ball of fire and debris. The Defiant is retreating, Gregory reported. But 3 Nix ships are pursuing. Abigail made a decision. Helm, take us in, full speed. Olivia looked surprised. Captain, Fleet Command ordered us to stay back. Fleet Command is gone. And if we don't do something, Earth is next. Abigail turned to Samuel. Chief, is the resonance cannon ready? Yes, but we've never tested it against actual targets. Today's the day. Abigail addressed the whole bridge. Listen carefully. Our ship may look like junk, but thanks to Chief Ellis, we're actually the most advanced vessel in the fleet. The Nix don't know that. They'll ignore us until it's too late. The crew nodded, fear in their eyes, but determination too. Our plan is simple, Abigail continued. We get between the Nix and the Defiant. We take their fire, which our adaptive shields should handle. Then we hit back with the resonance cannon. And if the shields don't hold, Daniel asked, then it was nice serving with all of you. Abigail straightened her uniform. Helm, maximum speed. Tactical, prepare the resonance cannon. Communications, send a message to Earth with everything we know about the Nix attack. The Underdog's engines roared to life with power that should have been impossible for a ship its size. It shot forward, quickly closing the distance to the battle. The crew worked with focused intensity, knowing that Earth's survival might depend on what happened in the next few minutes. 1 minute to intercept, Olivia announced. On the screen, they could see the Defiant struggling to escape as the Nix ships fired again and again. Its shields were failing, hull breaches visible along its side. The Nix have noticed us, Gregory said. 1 ship is breaking off to intercept. Good, Abigail said. Let them come. The Nix vessel approached rapidly. It was sleek and deadly, bristling with weapons. Compared to the patched-up Underdog, it looked like a shark approaching a wounded fish. They're scanning us, Samuel reported. Standard scans only. They're not looking deep enough to see our modifications. They're firing, Gregory shouted. A beam of bright energy shot from the Nix ship directly at the Underdog. Everyone on the bridge tensed, waiting for impact. The beam hit the Underdog's shields and spread across them like water on glass, dissipating without causing damage. Shields holding at 92%, Samuel reported, his voice filled with relief and pride. The adaptive system is working. It's analyzing their weapon frequencies and adjusting in real time. The Nyx ship fired again with the same result. They look confused, Daniel said, watching the enemy ship's movements. They expected us to explode. Abigail smiled grimly. Let's really confuse them. Gregory, target their weapons array with a low-power shot from our conventional guns. The underdog fired what looked like a standard human weapon. It hit the Nyx ship's shields and surprisingly passed through to strike the hull. Direct hit, Gregory exclaimed. Their shields didn't stop it, Samuel laughed, because we modified our weapons to match the frequency gap in their shield modulation. They never expected anyone to figure that out. Now they'll take us seriously, Abigail said. Prepare the resonance cannon. Let's show them what this old ship can really do. The bridge of the USS Underdog was silent as everyone watched the Nyx ship approach again. The alien vessel was 3 times their size, its sleek hull gleaming against the darkness of space. It was joined by a second Nyx ship, both of them circling, the small human vessel like wolves around prey. They're trying to decide what we are, Samuel Ellis said, watching the sensor readings. Our first shot confused them. Good, Abigail replied. Confusion buys us time. How's the resonance cannon? Ready to fire, but we only get 1 shot before it needs to recharge. Abigail nodded. We need to make it count then. On the main screen, they could see the Defiant, still trying to escape with 1 Nyx ship in pursuit. The human battleship was badly damaged, trailing debris and venting atmosphere. The Defiant won't make it much longer, Gregory reported. Their engines are failing. Abigail made her decision. We need to help them first. Olivia, plot an intercept course between the Defiant and that Nyx ship. Samuel, can we use the resonance cannon at that distance? Yes, but it'll be at reduced power. Still should be enough to hurt them. Do it. Abigail turned to Daniel. Send a message to the Defiant. Tell them to prepare for sudden acceleration. The Underdog shot forward, its engines pushing to maximum power. The 2 Nyx ships that had been circling immediately gave chase. They're firing again, Gregory called out. Multiple energy beams struck the Underdog's shields. The bridge lights flickered, and the ship shuddered. Shields at 78%, Samuel reported. Still holding, but they're hitting us with everything now. Abigail gripped the arms of her chair. They're not laughing at us anymore. The Underdog raced toward the Defiant, closing the distance rapidly. The pursuing Nyx ships fired continuously, their weapons growing more intense with each shot. They're adapting, Samuel warned. Trying different frequencies to get through our shields. And our shields are adapting back? Abigail asked. So far, yes, but they have more power. It's only a matter of time. The Underdog reached the Defiant just as the Nyx ship was preparing to fire what would have been a killing blow. We're in position, Olivia announced, directly between the Defiant and the Nyx ship. Gregory, target the resonance cannon. Target. Locked. Gregory's fingers flew across his console. Fire! The front section of the Underdog transformed. Panels slid aside, revealing a crystalline structure that glowed with inner light. A beam of energy, almost invisible except for a slight distortion in the space it passed through, shot toward the Nyx ship. When it hit, there was no explosion, no fire. Instead, the Nyx ship's shields began to glow brighter and brighter. The glow spread across the hull, pulsing like a heartbeat. Then, suddenly, the shields collapsed inward. The pressure crushed the front of the Nyx ship, crumpling it like paper. Secondary explosions rippled through the vessel as its own energy systems overloaded. Direct hit! Gregory shouted, disbelief in his voice. Their ship is breaking apart. The bridge crew watched in amazement as the mighty alien vessel split in 2, debris flying outward in a slowly expanding cloud. How? Daniel began. The resonance cannon doesn't attack their hull, Samuel explained quickly. It creates a feedback loop in their shields. Their own energy becomes the weapon. Incoming transmission from the Defiant, Olivia reported. The face of a young officer appeared on screen. His uniform was torn and emergency lights flashed behind him. USS Underdog, this is Acting Captain Ryan Peterson of the Defiant. Our captain is dead. Most senior officers too. What just happened? How did you destroy that ship? No time to explain. Defiant, Abigail replied. Can your engines get you back to Earth? Barely. We're at 30% power at best. Then go, now. Warn Earth about the Nix attack. Tell them the diplomatic mission was a trap. Peterson nodded. What about you? Abigail looked at her crew, seeing determination in their eyes. We're going to buy you time. The transmission ended. The Defiant slowly turned and limped away, heading for Earth. The other Nix ships are changing course, Gregory reported. 3 are pursuing the Defiant. 2 are still coming for us. Abigail stood up. How long until the resonance cannon recharges? 2 more minutes, Samuel replied. But our shields are down to 64% and dropping. We need to hold them off. Abigail turned to Olivia. Evasive maneuvers. Make it hard for them to get a lock on us. The underdog began to move in an unpredictable pattern, diving and turning in ways that should have been impossible for a ship its size. The 2 Nix vessels followed, firing continuously. Shields at 51%, Samuel reported as another hit rocked the ship. We can't take much more of this. 1 minute to recharge, Gregory added. Daniel looked up from his console. Captain, the 3 Nix ships chasing the Defiant have stopped. They're turning back. Abigail frowned. Why would they? New contacts, Olivia shouted. 7 more Nix ships just appeared from behind the moon. The situation had just gone from bad to worse. The main Nix fleet had arrived. The resonance cannon can't handle that many, Samuel said quietly. Abigail took a deep breath. It doesn't have to. It just needs to handle enough of them to let the Defiant escape. She sat back in her chair, mind racing. Samuel, forget the resonance cannon. We need something else. The Nix ships all communicate with each other, right? Samuel nodded. Constantly, short encrypted bursts. Can we use that? Send something through. Their communication channels? The chief engineer's eyes widened. Maybe. Their systems are advanced but still follow basic principles. If we could create a data surge through their network, like a virus? Daniel asked. More like an overload, Samuel said, already moving to his engineering station. We'd have to get very close to one of their ships, though. Abigail looked at the tactical display. The 7 new Nix ships were advancing in perfect formation. Behind them, Earth was a blue dot in the distance. If those ships reached her home planet, billions would die. How close do you need to get? She asked. Practically touching, Samuel replied. We'd have to drop our shields for a few seconds to create the connection. The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Could we survive those few seconds? Abigail asked finally. Samuel hesitated. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe. If we time it perfectly. Gregory spoke up. The resonance cannon is recharged. We could take out one ship, then immediately move to another for this data attack. Abigail nodded. That's our plan then. We hit one ship with the cannon, then immediately move to a second ship and attempt the data surge. She looked at each of her crew members. I won't lie to you. The odds aren't good. If anyone wants to take an escape pod now, I won't think less of you. No one moved. Daniel smiled slightly. Where would we go, Captain? If Earth falls, nowhere is safe. Besides, Olivia added, no one would believe we did any of this anyway. Samuel looked up from his work. The data surge package is ready. I've set it to transmit through their command protocols. If it works, it should spread to every ship in their network. And if it works, what will it do? Abigail asked. Best case? Temporarily shut down their shields and weapons. Worst case? Nothing at all. Abigail straightened her uniform. Then let's hope for the best case. Olivia set course for the lead Nix ship. Full speed. The underdog turned and accelerated toward the approaching alien fleet. On the bridge, the crew prepared for what might be their final mission. One way or another, Abigail said quietly, they won't forget the underdog after today. The USS Underdog raced toward the Nix fleet. The small human ship looked like a moth flying toward a flame. Behind it, the damaged Defiant was slowly moving away, carrying Earth's last warning. 1 minute to weapons range, Olivia announced. Her voice was steady despite the danger. Abigail studied the tactical display. 7 new Nix ships had joined the 2 that were already chasing them. 9 against 1. The odds were terrible. Samuel, is there any way to boost the resonance cannons?
Power?
She asked. The chief engineer frowned. I could redirect power from life support systems. It's risky, but might give us a 20% increase. Do it. We won't need life support if we fail. Samuel nodded and began working at his console. The lights dimmed further as he redirected the ship's power. 30 seconds to target, Gregory said. The lead Nix ship is charging weapons. Daniel looked up from communications. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Nix. They want us to surrender. Abigail laughed. Now they want to talk? Tell them we'll consider it after they leave our solar system. The Nix ships fired together. Multiple energy beams crossed space toward the underdog. Evasive maneuvers, Abigail ordered. Olivia's hands flew across her controls. The underdog twisted and turned, avoiding most of the beams. But 3 still hit, making the ship shake violently. Shields, at 37%, Samuel reported. 1 more volley like that and we're done. Target locked on the lead ship, Gregory announced. Fire the resonance cannon. Once again, the front of the underdog transformed, revealing the crystalline weapon. The nearly invisible beam shot out, hitting the lead Nix ship directly. This time, the effect was even more dramatic. The Nix shields glowed brilliantly, then collapsed with such force that the entire front half of the alien vessel crumpled inward. A series of explosions tore through it, leaving nothing but floating debris. Direct hit, Gregory shouted. Their lead ship is destroyed. There was no time to celebrate. Olivia, take us directly to the next ship as close as you can get. The underdog shot forward, passing through the debris field of the destroyed Nix vessel. The remaining 8 alien ships seemed momentarily confused, their perfect formation breaking as they adjusted to the loss of their leader. They're recalibrating their weapons, Daniel warned. Trying to find a frequency our shields can't adapt to. Shields at 29% and falling, Samuel added. The resonance cannon is offline for at least another minute. The underdog approached the closest Nix ship. The alien vessel was massive compared to the human ship, its weapons already turning to target them. How close do we need to be for the data surge? Abigail asked. Almost touching, Samuel replied, and we'll need to drop shields for at least 5 seconds to establish the connection. 5 seconds with no shields against Nix weapons. It seemed impossible. Abigail made a decision. We need a distraction. Gregory, arm 2 torpedoes and target their weapons array. Torpedoes armed? Olivia, on my mark, take us in a curved approach. I want their sensors confused about our trajectory. Ready, Captain. Abigail took a deep breath. Fire torpedoes. 2 torpedoes shot from the underdog toward the Nix ship. At Ni. The same moment, Olivia changed course, sending the human vessel in a tight spiral. The Nix ship fired at the torpedoes, destroying one, but the second hit its target, exploding against the alien's weapons array. The damage was minimal, but it created a brief moment of confusion. Now, Olivia, take us in. The underdog dove straight toward the Nix ship, closing the distance in seconds. The alien vessel tried to turn away, but it was too slow. Alongside their command section, Samuel called out. Ready for data surge. Drop shields and transmit, Abigail ordered. The underdog's shields vanished. For 5 terrifying seconds, the small ship was completely vulnerable. The nearby Nix vessels immediately fired, their beams racing toward the defenseless human ship. Samuel's fingers flew across his console. Transmitting data surge package. Connection established. Uploading now. The first energy beam from a Nix ship was about to hit when Samuel shouted, Done, shields up. The shields came back online just as the beam struck. The bridge shook violently. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship. Shields at 12%, Samuel reported. 1 more hit and they're gone. Did it work? Abigail asked. The data surge? Samuel checked his readings. I don't know yet. The package is spreading through their network, but he was interrupted by Gregory. Captain, look. On the main screen, they could see the Nix ship they had just targeted. Its lights were flickering. Its weapons suddenly powered down. Then, one by one, the other Nix ships began showing the same symptoms. It's working, Samuel exclaimed. "The surge is overloading their control systems." "What exactly is happening to them?" Daniel asked. "Their ships use a shared control system," Samuel explained. "Our data surge is creating conflicting commands, making their ships fight against themselves." Abigail watched as the Nyx vessels drifted, their weapons and shields powering on and off randomly. Some began to spin slowly, unable to maintain their position. "How long will this last?" she asked. Samuel shook his head. "Minutes, maybe less. Their systems will reset eventually." "Then we need to use this time." Abigail turned to Gregory. "Is the resonance cannon back online?" "Yes, Captain. Recharged and ready." "Target the nearest disabled ship and fire." The resonance cannon fired again. This time, with the Nyx ship's shields fluctuating, the effect was devastating. The alien vessel didn't just crumple, it exploded in a massive fireball. "Again," Abigail ordered. "Target the next ship." One by one, the underdog fired on the disabled Nyx vessels. Without stable shields, they had no defense against the resonance weapon. In less than 2 minutes, 4 more Nyx ships were destroyed. 3 remaining, Gregory reported. "But I think they're starting to recover. Their systems are stabilizing." Samuel looked up from his console. "Captain, we have a problem. The resonance cannon is overheating. One more shot and it might burn out completely." Abigail considered their options. 3 Nyx ships remained, and they would soon regain full control. The underdog's shields were almost gone. The resonance cannon could fire only once more. "We need to make it count," she said. "Olivia, position us so that the 3 remaining ships are as close to each other as possible." "You want to hit all 3 with one shot?" Samuel asked, surprised. "Is it possible?" The chief engineer thought for a moment. "Maybe. If they're close enough, the resonance effect could cascade from one ship to the next, but it's never been tried." "Well, today is a day for firsts." Abigail turned to the helm. "Olivia, make it happen." The underdog moved carefully, positioning itself as the 3 Nyx ships struggled to regain control. Their movements were becoming more coordinated. Time was running out. "They're as close as they're going to get," Olivia reported. Gregory aimed the weapon. Resonance cannon locked on the center ship. Abigail hesitated. This was their last shot. If it failed, Earth would have only the warning carried by the Defiant to prepare for the Nyx invasion. "Fire," she ordered. The resonance cannon fired one last time. The beam hit the center Nyx ship just as it was raising its shields. The effect began as before, a growing glow spreading across the shields. But this time, as the first ship's shields collapsed, the energy jumped to the second ship, then the third. Like dominoes falling, all 3 Nyx vessels were caught in the cascading resonance effect. Their shields imploded, crushing their hulls. Secondary explosions tore them apart from within. In moments, the space around the underdog was filled with nothing but debris. "All Nyx ships destroyed," Gregory reported, his voice filled with disbelief. "Die." Bridge crew sat in stunned silence. They had done the impossible. Then the ship shuddered. Alarm bells rang out. "The resonance cannon has burned out," Samuel reported, "and we've got multiple system failures. The strain was too much." "Can we make it back to Earth?" Abigail asked. Samuel checked his readings. "Yes, but it won't be pretty. We've got enough power for life support and basic propulsion. That's about it." Abigail nodded. "Then let's go home. We've got quite a story to tell." As the damaged underdog turned toward Earth, its crew finally allowed themselves to smile. The old ship that no one had taken seriously had just saved humanity. 3 days after the battle, the USS Underdog limped toward Earth. The ship moved slowly, its engines barely working. Parts of its hull were blackened from weapon hits. The once hidden resonance cannon was now exposed, its crystalline structure burned out and dark. On the bridge, Captain Abigail Wright sat quietly in her chair. The crew looked tired but proud. They had barely slept since the battle, working in shifts to keep the damaged systems running. "Earth Defense Fleet approaching," Olivia announced. 6 battleships in formation. Abigail nodded. "Open a channel." The main screen lit up, showing Admiral Jackson, the head of Earth Space Forces. His face was serious. "USS Underdog, this is Admiral Jackson. We've heard an incredible story from the Defiant. They claim you single-handedly destroyed 9 Nix warships. That's correct, Admiral, Abigail replied simply. The Admiral's expression showed disbelief. Captain Wright, with all due respect, that's impossible. The Underdog is an outdated patrol vessel. It doesn't have the capabilities to— Permission to interrupt, sir, Abigail said. I suggest you scan our ship. You'll find some interesting modifications. There was a pause as the Earth fleet scanned the Underdog. Abigail could imagine their surprise as they discovered the advanced technology hidden within the old ship's battered hull. What am I looking at, Captain? The Admiral finally asked, his voice quieter. These readings don't match any known Earth technology. Samuel Ellis stepped forward. Because it isn't known technology, sir. I developed most of it myself over the past 5 years. You developed it? Without authorization? Without oversight? With all due respect, Admiral, Abigail said. No one was paying attention to the Underdog. No one cared what we did as long as we stayed out of the way. The Admiral was speechless for a moment. Then he straightened. Captain Wright, Chief Engineer Ellis, your entire crew. Earth owes you a debt we can never repay. The Defiant brought us footage of the battle. If the Nix fleet had reached Earth, they would have destroyed us, Abigail finished. That was their plan all along. I've ordered a full honor escort for your return, the Admiral said. There will be medals for everyone aboard. Thank you, sir. But what we really need is a repair. Doc, the Underdog took heavy damage. The best dock is already being prepared. We'll have you fixed up in no time. After the transmission ended, Daniel turned to Abigail. So we're heroes now? Looks that way, she replied with a small smile. What happens next? Olivia asked. Will they take the ship away from us? Study all of Samuel's inventions? Samuel snorted. Let them try. Half the systems are designed to only work with my personal override codes. I don't think they'll separate us, Abigail said. They need us too badly now. The Nix won't give up after one defeat. Gregory looked up from his console. You think they'll be back? I know they will. That was just their first wave. There will be more. The Earth fleet surrounded the Underdog, forming a protective escort. Together they approached the massive space dock orbiting the planet. Thousands of small ships flew alongside them, news crews, civilian craft, even private shuttles. Everyone wanted to see the miracle ship that had saved Earth. I never thought I'd see the day, Daniel said, looking at the view screen. People are actually excited to see the Underdog. Abigail watched the approaching space dock. Things changed quickly. 1 week later, Abigail stood in a large conference room at Earth Defense Headquarters. The room was filled with military officers, government officials, and scientists. On a large screen at the front, detailed diagrams of the Underdog systems were displayed. Samuel Ellis was explaining the adaptive shielding technology to the awestruck audience. The key breakthrough was realizing that shield harmonics could be adjusted in real time to match incoming weapon frequencies. A scientist raised his hand. But the power requirements for such a system would be enormous. That's where the modified reactor core comes in, Samuel replied. By using a nested containment field, we were able to triple the energy output without increasing radiation. Abigail listened with pride. For years, Samuel's ideas had been ignored or dismissed as impossible. Now, everyone wanted to know how he had done the impossible. Admiral Jackson stood next to Abigail. We're implementing these designs fleet-wide, he said quietly. Every ship will have adaptive shielding within 6 months. And the resonance cannon? That's more complicated. Ellis says it requires special materials that are hard to produce in large quantities, but we'll figure it out. Abigail nodded. You'll need to. The Nix will adapt too. Next time, they'll be ready for us. Speaking of next time, the Admiral said, I have something to show you. He led Abigail to a separate room where a large holographic display showed a ship design. It looked similar to the Underdog, but larger, sleeker, and obviously built with Samuel's technology from the ground up. The USS Phoenix, Admiral Jackson explained. The first of our new Defender class. And it's yours. if you want it. Abigail studied the design. It's impressive, but what about the underdog? Ellis convinced us to keep it in service. We're repairing it now, with all his specifications. It will be a training vessel, teaching other engineers how the systems work. And my crew? They go where you go, Captain, that's non-negotiable. We learned our lesson about breaking up effective teams. Abigail smiled. After years of being overlooked, her crew was finally getting the recognition they deserved. 3 months. Later, Abigail stood on the bridge of the newly repaired underdog. The ship looked almost the same from the outside. The Admiralty had decided to keep its unimpressive appearance. But inside, everything was new and improved. Samuel had overseen every detail of the repairs, adding even more hidden capabilities. The resonance cannon had been rebuilt and a backup system installed. The adaptive shields were stronger than ever. Final system check complete, Samuel reported. Everything is functioning perfectly. Abigail looked around at her crew, Daniel, Olivia, Gregory, and Samuel. They had been through so much together. The Phoenix will be ready in 2 weeks, she told them. Admiral Jackson wants us to take command as soon as she's launched. A new ship, Daniel said. Hard to imagine after all these years on the underdog. We'll still have the underdog too, Samuel reminded him. I'll be splitting my time between both ships training the new engineers. Gregory looked up from tactical. Long-range sensors are detecting something at the edge of the solar system. Multiple objects approaching at high speed. Abigail's expression hardened. The Nix. Most likely. They're still too far for detailed scans, but the pattern matches. Their ships. How many? At least 20. Maybe more. The bridge fell silent. Even with all their new technology, 20 Nix ships would be a formidable challenge. Alert Earth defense, Abigail ordered. Tell them we need every ship ready. What about us? Olivia asked. We're still supposed to be on a test run. Abigail settled into her captain's chair. Test's over. The underdog is going to war again. As the ship turned to face the approaching threat, Abigail felt a strange calm. The first time they had faced the Nix, they had been alone and unprepared. This time, Earth was ready. This time, they knew what they were fighting for. Take us out, Olivia, she ordered. Maximum speed. The USS Underdog, the ship that no one had taken seriously until it saved the world, headed once more into battle, leading Earth's fleet against the stars.